Tropical low development in the Coral Sea, increased thunderstorm risk across Queensland, potential cyclone formation within the next week. That is what we're looking at. I've been examining the latest data from the Bureau of Meteorology, cross-referencing with multiple forecast models and monitoring conditions around Willis Island. There is a pattern developing that deserves your attention. Right now, sea surface temperatures across the Coral Sea are sitting well above average. We are talking 28 to 29 degrees Celsius. That S fuel for tropical development. The monsoon trough is active across northern Australia, and we've got an area of low pressure that S been lingering near Willis Island for the past several days. For those wondering why there's always low pressure around Willis Island this time of year, it's not the radar station causing it. Willis sits in a region where the monsoon trough frequently parks itself during our wet season. The combination of warm waters, atmospheric moisture and the intertropical convergence zone creates ideal conditions for these systems to develop. It is meteorology, not the equipment. Let me walk you through what the models are showing, because there is both agreement and uncertainty here, and you need to understand both. The Access model, that's the Bureau S Australian Community Climate and Earth System Simulator, is indicating development of a tropical low in the Coral Sea over the next 72 to 96 hours. The system is forecast to organise northeast of Cairns, potentially reaching cyclone intensity by the middle of next week. The GFS model shows similar timing but tracks the system slightly further south. The European model is more conservative on intensification but agrees on the general pattern. Here is what they all agree on. Conditions are favourable for development. Wind shear is forecast to decrease across the region. That is critical. Cyclones need low wind shear to organise and strengthen. When you've got strong shear, it tears the system apart before it can develop a defined structure. Current wind shear sits around 20 to 25 knots across the Coral Sea. By Sunday into Monday, that drops to 10 to 15 knots. That's the window where we could see rapid organisation. Sea surface temperatures, as I mentioned, are well above the 26.5 degree threshold needed for cyclone formation. We're re-sitting at 28 to 29 degrees. That S energy, combined with low shear and an active monsoon trough, the ingredients are there. Now let S talk about what this means for Queensland, because that S what matters to most of you. If this system develops as forecast, initial impacts begin with increased thunderstorm activity across far north Queensland from this weekend into early next week. We're talking widespread storms, heavy rainfall, potential for localised flooding in catchment areas. Coastal areas from Cairns north to Cape York can expect rough seas, dangerous surf conditions and the possibility of coastal erosion. Marine interests need to monitor this closely. If you've got boats, check your moorings. If you're planning to be on the water, reconsider. The forecast track remains uncertain at this stage. Models show a range from anywhere between Townsville and the far north. Some solutions take it towards the coast, others keep it offshore. That S a critical difference that determines whether we are looking at a direct impact or just fringe effects. What I can tell you with more confidence is the timing. Development likely occurs Monday through Wednesday next week. If it does form into a named cyclone, that S when the trajectory becomes crucial. For those in southern Queensland, particularly around Brisbane and the Gold Coast, you are watching this as well. Some extended range models suggest if wind shear increases later next week, the system could track further south than typical. That is not the primary forecast scenario right now, but it is within the range of possibilities. This brings me to a comparison that several of you might already be thinking about. 2011, Cyclone Anthony made landfall near Bowen as a Category 2 in late January. Less than 2 weeks later, Cyclone Yasi, a Category 5, devastated the same region. That was the worst cyclone season many Queenslanders have experienced in recent memory. Are we looking at a repeat of 2011? No, let me be clear about that. The atmospheric and oceanic setup is different. The Madden-Julian oscillation phase is different. The background El Niño southern oscillation state is different. But the comparison highlights an important reality. Tropical cyclone development can be clustered. When conditions favour one system, they often favour multiple systems. That's why cyclone season demands sustained vigilance, not just attention to individual events. Cyclone Yasi remains the benchmark for intensity in recent Australian history. Sustained winds of 285 kilometres per hour. It was a meteorological monster. The current system, even if it develops, is not forecast to reach those extremes. But that doesn't mean it's not serious. A Category 1 or 2 cyclone can still cause significant damage. Flooding from heavy rain often causes more problems than the wind. Infrastructure damage, power outages, isolated communities. These are real impacts that require a Category 5 to occur. Let me break down the regional outlook more specifically, starting up north and working south. Far North Queensland, from Cooktown to Cape York, URI in the primary zone of concern. Even if this doesn't develop into a cyclone, you are getting the thunderstorms, the heavy rain and the rough conditions. Rainfall totals over the next week could reach 150 to 200 millimetres in coastal areas, higher in elevated terrain. That's enough to cause flash flooding in catchments that respond quickly. Cairns and the Tablelands, similar situation. Widespread thunderstorm activity increases from Sunday. Heavy rainfall possible, particularly with any training cells that set up. Monitor local warnings from the Bureau, Townsville to Mackay. You are in the potential impact zone depending on track. Right now, it's a watch and wait situation. If the system tracks south, you will see deteriorating conditions by mid to late next week. If it stays north or heads out to sea, you'll get peripheral effects, but nothing major. Central Queensland, unlikely to see direct impacts from this particular system, but thunderstorm activity increases across inland areas as moisture spreads west. Localised heavy falls possible. Southeast Queensland, Brisbane-Gold Coast. You are further south, but don't ignore this completely. Moisture from this system could interact with other features and bring thunderstorm activity to the southeast later next week. That's a lower probability outcome, but it's on the radar. Now, let's address something I know many of you have been dealing with. Southern Queensland has been bloody dry. Worst December and January in years for some areas. Dams are low, paddocks are brown, livestock are stressed. This system, if it develops and tracks in a certain way, could bring beneficial rain. But here's the reality. Tropical systems are hit or miss. You either cop a deluge or you get nothing. There's rarely a middle ground. If you banking on this for drought relief, understand the uncertainty involved. Perth and Western Australia, you bone dry as well, 3 months with bugger all rain. But that's a different weather pattern entirely. A series of fronts may bring relief to the southwest in the coming fortnight. That's a separate forecast altogether. Melbourne's been warm, 32 degrees this week, bloody hot for this time of year. That's an inland heat trough combined with northerly winds. A southerly change brings relief by the weekend, dropping maximums back to the low 20s. Adelaide sitting pretty at the moment, 24 degrees and sunny. Enjoy it while it lasts because the heat returns early next week. Tasmania already feeling the cold, -2 degrees in some areas this morning. Frost across the northern suburbs. That cold air mass is in place and strengthening. Overnight minimums could drop to -5 in alpine areas by the weekend. Sydney waiting for rain. The catchments need it. This tropical system won to help you directly, but there's a coastal trough forecast to develop late next week that could bring showers to the Sydney Basin. Don't count on it yet, but it is worth monitoring. Back to the tropical system. Let me talk about uncertainty and confidence levels because this is important. High confidence. Tropical low development occurs in the Coral Sea over the next 72 to 96 hours. Thunderstorm activity increases across far north Queensland. Sea surface temperatures and atmospheric conditions support development. Medium confidence, the system intensifies to cyclone strength. If it does, intensity likely reaches Category 1 or 2, possibly Category 3 under ideal conditions. Timing of peak intensity falls around Tuesday to Thursday next week. Low confidence, exact track. This is where the models diverge. We're talking about a system that hasn't even formed yet. Small changes in steering currents, shear patterns, or the structure of the system itself can shift the track by hundreds of kilometres. That uncertainty is why you monitor forecasts daily during cyclone season. What looks like an offshore system on Monday could be heading for the coast by Wednesday, or vice versa. The Bureau updates warnings every 6 hours for active systems. Use them. For those in cyclone-prone areas, now is the time to review your preparations, not when the warnings escalate. Now. Check your cyclone kit. Water, non-perishable food, battery-powered radio, torch, first aid supplies, important documents in waterproof containers. If you haven't looked at it since last season, check the batteries, check the expiry dates, make sure everything is still there. Know your evacuation routes. If you're in a low-lying coastal area, where do you go if flooding occurs? If you are in a caravan or temporary structure, where is the nearest solid shelter? Secure loose items around the property. Outdoor furniture, trampolines, garden tools, wheelie bins. In strong winds, these become projectiles. Get them secured or brought inside. If you've got livestock, make sure they have access to shelter and high ground. Horses, cattle, sheep all need somewhere to get out of the worst of it. For those on boats, this is critical. Check your moorings. Make sure lines are secure. Consider moving the boat to a safer location if a cyclone looks likely. Marina damage during cyclones is expensive and dangerous. Stock up on essentials before the rush. Not panic buying, just sensible preparation. If a cyclone warning is issued, everyone hits the shops at once. Get ahead of that. Fuel your vehicles. If the power goes out, petrol stations can operate pumps. Half a tank might not be enough if you need to evacuate or help others. Charge your devices, phones, tablets, portable chargers. Communication is vital during severe weather events. If you take medication, make sure you've got enough to last at least a week. Pharmacies may be closed or inaccessible. For those in bushfire-prone areas in other parts of Australia, I know cyclones aren't your concern, but fire danger is. Check the fire danger rating for your area. Total fire ban days mean no fires whatsoever. No barbecues, no grinding, no machinery that could throw sparks. Know your bushfire plan. Leaving early is always the safest option. If you're going to stay and defend, make sure you're physically and mentally prepared and that your property is defendable. Catastrophic fire danger means do not stay. Leave. Back to the tropical system one more time because I want to make sure this is clear. This is not a guaranteed cyclone. It's a forecast for favourable conditions and likely development. Nature doesn't always cooperate with forecasts. Systems fall apart. They track unexpectedly. They intensify or weaken faster than models suggest. What I'm giving you is the best available information based on current data and model guidance. But weather is probabilistic, not deterministic. There's a range of outcomes, not a single certain future. Monitor the Bureau of Meteorology warnings. They are the official source. When they issue a cyclone watch or warning, that S when you act decisively. Watches typically come 48 hours before potential impacts. Warnings come 24 hours before. Don T, wait for the warning to prepare. Prepare during the watch. Or better yet, prepare now before anything is issued. For those along the coast, particularly in far north Queensland, the next 72 hours are crucial for watching how this system develops. By Friday, we'll have much better clarity on whether this becomes a cyclone and if so, where it's likely to track. Marine warnings are already in place for parts of the Coral Sea. If you on the water, you should already be aware of deteriorating conditions. Seas are building. Winds are increasing. It's not safe out there and it's going to get worse. Across the rest of Queensland, thunderstorm activity ramps up from this weekend. That means lightning, heavy rain in short periods, potential for flash flooding in urban areas with poor drainage. Don T, drive through floodwater. If it's flooded, forget it. That's the SES message and it is spot on. Thunderstorms can also produce damaging wind gusts, large hail and isolated tornadoes. Queensland sees tornadoes more often than people realise, particularly during active monsoon periods. They are usually weak and short-lived, but they can still cause localised damage. If a severe thunderstorm warning is issued for your area, take shelter indoors, unplug sensitive electronics, stay away from windows. Don T, go outside to watch the storm. Lightning kills. For those who work outdoors, you've got some challenging conditions ahead. Construction, agriculture, tourism, whatever your industry, severe weather impacts operations. Plan accordingly, delay work if necessary. No job is worth your safety. One more point on longer range patterns. Beyond this immediate system, the monsoon trough remains active through early February. That means the potential for additional tropical development exists. We're in peak cyclone season. November through April is when most Australian cyclones form, with February and March typically the most active months. The current Madden-Julian oscillation phase supports enhanced convection across the region. That's a 60-day cycle that influences tropical weather patterns. When the MJO is active over our region, we see increased thunderstorm activity and higher cyclone risk. It's been sitting over the Australian sector for the past week and is forecast to continue through late January. Indian Ocean dipole is neutral at the moment. El Niño southern oscillation is in a neutral phase as well. Neither is strongly influencing our weather patterns right now. That S actually somewhat unusual. Often we've got one or the other driving large-scale patterns. The monsoon is doing its own thing at the moment. Sea surface temperatures remain above average across much of the Australian region. That S not just in the Coral Sea, the Timor Sea, the Arafura Sea, waters off Western Australia, all warmer than normal. That elevated ocean heat content is fuel for weather systems, whether tropical cyclones, thunderstorms or heavy rainfall events. Climate background aside, the immediate focus is this Coral Sea system. By Monday, we'll know whether it S organised into a defined low. By Tuesday, we'll know whether it S likely to reach cyclone strength. By Wednesday, we should have better track guidance. That's the timeline you are working with. Updates will come frequently as the system develops. The Bureau will issue special tropical cyclone outlooks. Marine warnings will be upgraded. Local emergency services will communicate specific actions for your area. Listen to them. Not social media speculation, not rumours. Official sources. I know cyclone season creates anxiety, particularly for those who have been through severe events before. Cyclone Yassi traumatised communities. People still carry that experience. If you're feeling stressed or worried, that is normal. Talk to someone. Check on your neighbours, particularly elderly residents or those who might be isolated. Community resilience is built before the event, not during it. Look out for each other, share information, help those who need it. For those in southern states watching this and thinking it doesn't affect you, you are right in terms of direct impacts. But weather patterns across Australia are connected. What happens in the tropics influences what happens down south. Moisture from tropical systems can fuel thunderstorms across inland areas. Temperature contrasts between tropical air masses and southern cold fronts create severe weather boundaries. Melbourne S southerly change this weekend originates from a cold air mass in the Southern Ocean. That same air mass will eventually interact with tropical moisture spreading west from this system. Where they meet, you get weather, sometimes significant weather. Adelaide might see thunderstorms early next week as that interaction occurs. Not guaranteed, but possible. Tasmania-S cold air mass is reinforcing. You are in for a genuinely cold spell. Overnight minimums below zero, daytime maximums struggling to reach double digits in some areas. If you're heading to the mountains, snow is likely above 1,000 metres. Roads will be icy. Drive carefully. Western Australia, your dry pattern continues for now, but there is a trough approaching from the west. That could bring rain to Perth and the southwest by the end of next week. Amounts look modest at this stage, maybe 10 to 20 millimetres, but it S as something. New South Wales, your weather over the next week depends partly on what this tropical system does. If it tracks south, moisture spreads into the northern rivers and mid-north coast. If it stays north or goes offshore, you miss out. Sydney S coastal trough development late next week is a separate feature but could bring some relief. The big picture, Australia S weather is active. Tropics are firing up. Southern systems are moving through. Temperature gradients are significant. That makes for interesting meteorology and impactful weather. Stay informed. Be prepared. Don't panic, but don't to be complacent either. Check the Bureau of Meteorology website daily. Sign up for warning alerts if you haven't already. They'll send notifications directly to your phone for your area. Have a plan. Know what you will do if conditions deteriorate. Know where you will go, what you will take, how you will communicate, and trust the data. Official forecasts improve every year. Models are more sophisticated. Satellites give us better monitoring. Radar networks are more comprehensive. The Bureau does solid work. Use their information. That S where we stand. Tropical low development likely in the Coral Sea. Cyclone potential within the next week. Far North Queensland in the primary watch zone. Thunderstorm risk increasing across Queensland. Conditions evolving rapidly. I'll continue monitoring and updating as this system develops. The next 72 hours are critical for understanding what we're actually dealing with. Stay safe, look after each other.